Hi, Cedric here from MantaRisk. Quick video to show you something we've been cooking recently. In this demo, I will present how to combine the LLM with our newly released MantaRisk MCP to recreate a private banking experience from research to investment proposal in minutes. So let's start with asking the LLM to do the research, because LLMs are very good at that. So I'm just explaining Claude that is a financial analyst, and I would like some research done to create, kind of investment ideas in around the fact of geopolitical tensions, which there's a lot of at the moment, and also the AI, the rise of AI. Now, Claude will be using the web to do this research, and you can see it progressing here. Now, if we were a private bank, we could obviously plug Claude into the private bank's private research, which arguably is of higher quality than the web. But you will see it's actually pretty good. And I think for a smaller asset manager, you start to ask yourself some questions here. So here we go. So we've got some trends. So we've got a number of trends for AI supercycle, geopolitical fragmentations, commodity re-rating, uranium, of course, with the high demand in energy. And at the back of that, it's creating investment themes. So AI infrastructure and semiconductor, defense, power grid, healthcare, biotech, industrial renaissance, of course, with robotics, commodities, and defensive quality compounder. Okay, so this last one, as an investor, I would have told my bank, no, actually, I don't want to invest in theme H. So let's just do that. All right, here we go. So great, is dropping H. And now he's looking for instruments that match those themes. And I've asked him to find at least 5 instruments per theme. Now, ideally, you would want to find quite a bit more, maybe 10 per theme, and then really have the breadth of instruments required to balance the portfolio properly. But let's just go with 5. Okay, so he's found those instruments, and now he's talking to MantaRisk to resolve them into instruments that we obviously have in our database. So we have 1.5 million instruments in the database with historical data. And this is why it makes sense to pair MantaRisk with an LLM, because for an LLM to access all of this data and calculate correlation matrices across all of that just doesn't make sense, right? It's a bit like a human and a calculator. The LLM is the human, and the calculator is, in this case, us, MantaRisk, because just the math, they're already complex enough to do with code, let alone an LLM to do that. All right, so we've resolved 42 instruments. One was not resolved properly. It can find out because we give the LLM the information, and now it's going to create the portfolio with those 42 instruments. So at this point, you've got 42 instruments that you want to invest in, but then the big question is, in what proportions do you need to invest in those instruments? And this is where, what we do comes into play, because using, for instance, minimization of CEVA algorithms or more complex one that we have in store, we can either maximize the diversity of your portfolio, minimize the risk, or actually increase its performance. So here, I'm just going to go and say, okay, I have 100K CHF to invest. Can you please create a balance the portfolio for maximum diversity? All right, let's do this. Now, again, Claude is going to ask MantaRisk to do that, right? Claude does not attempt to do that himself. It's like using a calculator. So here we go, it's created the portfolio, and now it's going to balance it. So every time it's asking me to confirm, and you can see the strategy is max diversification. We have ballpark 9 strategies. We're adding some new ones at the moment. And these are anchored into like well-established algorithms. This is not trying to sell, snake oil on how this thing's going to make you rich. The key for the portfolio performance is the stock selection in the first place. What we do in terms of balancing are, recognized mathematics, and indeed the regulator generally prefer an algorithmic rebalancing than one made by a human, because it's a lot more systemic. Okay, here we go. Don't know why we had a glitch here, but it's kind of beside the point. We've got a rebalanced portfolio. So that's going to give us a summary. All right, so what do we have? We have a portfolio of 12 instruments. So you can see we moved from 40 to 12. It's just the nature of the specific algorithm we've chosen. There is effectively a temperature control on it where we can expand the universe if we want to. So it's just a side control. And then it's giving us information that we've provided it with. The volatility, 17%, the CVAR, which is the kind of the 5% worst loss expected for this scenario, and the annual expected return, which is 4.6%. And we have a very good idiosyncratic spread, which means this is a well-diversified kind of set of stocks. And okay, that's great. Now, if I was a portfolio manager, I need to now publish an investment proposal. So let's just ask Claude to do that. And now Claude is going to summarize his research and our figures and put that into an investment proposal. All right, looks like we're getting a result. Perfect. All right, let's have a look at the output. And then we'll wrap up. All right, so this is the investment proposal that has been created. It's HTML, of course, it can be created in PDF. That's really not the problem. Got an executive summary, explaining the potential return, expected return, CVA, the market trends, the investment themes, and the kind of instruments that have been selected to support this. The portfolio allocation, explanation as to obviously what is CVAR and the other kind of statistical results and what they mean. The market independence, which is very important, that's your diversification. And then we're going into factor analysis. So you can see you've got a real exposure to the US of 9.9%. This we provide, this is the analysis we provide. Although most of these stocks are listed in the US or are US companies, the exposure is much broader. So that's an important aspect. You have a well-diversified, from a geographical standpoint, well-diversified portfolio. Sector exposure is well balanced as well. Again, this is the calculated exposure. It's not the exposure from the reference data. It's correlation based. And yeah, now I guess at this point you're ready to invest. So, just to conclude on this, why is this important? I think there's two kind of reasons. The first one is, if we were to plug this in a private bank with the investment constraints, again, that we can as MantaRisk ingest, and with the bank research, then all of a sudden the creation of those proposals is completely automated, and that makes a huge difference. As you can see, as you have seen here, you go from talking to the clients to the document in a matter of minutes. So this is a huge productivity gain, and I think even more importantly, the LLM, in terms of summarizing the research, figuring out, aligning the research to the client's wishes is quite frankly, much more capable tool than a human doing this. Humans have got bias. They can't, most banks have got an investment universe of maybe 2,000 instruments, maybe more. They have the research around that. And that's not something that a single person can ingest easily, right? So again, from a systemic standpoint, it's very relevant. So I guess what you end up with is relatively large productivity improvement, and I think quality as well. It's also important for the smaller asset managers who may not have the size to invest in large research or to even study the research. So now, if you think about it, a small asset manager could have an LLM MantaRisk buy research from a bank and actually use a tool like a Wealthfark Databox to connect directly to their custodian. So all of a sudden, they have an AI-powered portfolio management system where they can genuinely process a huge amount of data with a team of 5 or even 40 people for the larger family offices. And I think that's a big thing. So in summary, that's why I made this video. I think this is going to really come quickly into the wealth industry, whether it's through us or someone else, it doesn't matter. But we're ready, and we're already talking to banks about that. And if you're interested, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.